There's always a project to be done on a car, and I've got some E235 CDS tube here, which basically I'm going to get these really decent quality M12 rose joints and welding inserts. So we're basically going to put the welding insert in the end, and that'll make it a adjustable tube. We've got a right and a left-hand thread, so we can adjust the tube much like we did on the suspension arms. This is going to be a new trailing arm. So the standard Lancia trailing arm is kind of got that bit of a curve in it as it goes around the inside of the tyre, but I don't need to do that on mine because I've got the wheels out into the arches, so I can get a straight trailing arm on the back there, and I want to kind of readjust the position of that rear wheel in the wheel arch, because at the moment it's kind of pushed a little bit too far forward. I'll just show you what I mean. So the trailing arm in question is that one which runs from the bottom of the hub forward to the bodywork up there, and if you kind of look at it from here, you can see it's like got a crank in it, and that is not ideal. I can't adjust it, but I've got plenty of room on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that arm, the factory one, and it's going to have rose jointed, much like we've got on the ends of our suspension arms here, which means we'll have full adjustability on it. And it means that I can kind of get rid of this issue here, because at the moment the wheel is kind of sitting forward into the arch at that point there. There's not a lot of clearance on this side here, and we have got plenty of clearance at the back. So I'm going to try and adjust that and push that wheel back into the middle of the arch, and that will mean that when we're adjusting toe in and toe out, we're not going to have any kind of clearance problems down here at the front. Okay, I've taken that rear trailing bar off the suspension there, and that now means that I can use that as a jig. So this is what I've done. We've got these rather nice rose joints. These are really quite top quality and zero movement in them. But they are M12 by 1.5 pitch thread on there, and M12 here. However, the bolts on the Lancia standard are M10. So what I didn't want to do was use a lightweight rose joint in that instance. So I'm going to use these little top hats, and they basically locate in there, and they reduce the bolt size down to a 10mm, and it gives it an extra bit of width, which is what we need. There's one of those goes in each side like that, so you've got a bit of extra width there, which kind of matches this is the front mount of the bar, which goes onto the chassis, and at that point there you can see it kind of matches the width of that, give or take a washer, which is good. So we need that. And of course it maintains the strength of the 12mm rod, which is even better. So I've just basically bolted one on that end temporarily, and we'll put one on this end here as well. And then what that means is that we've got ourselves a little jig. This is the weldable insert which goes in. Left hand thread one end, right hand thread the other. So of course when you tweak the bar in the middle, which is these poppies, it will extend or shorten the trailing arm, so we can get that wheel in the correct position. So all I need to do now is kind of do a bit of measuring up, see what length we need to cut the bars, get these welded in, and then we can have a look at it, see what it's like, and send it off for powder coating. So now I have welded in those inserts, the threaded inserts into the end there, which you might just be able to see, and just ground them back off, tidy them up. So now that bar is going to shoot down to Andy at Powder Coat in Shropshire, and we'll get a nice lick of red on it. Now the only other thing that you have got to watch when you're doing these is that when you weld those inserts in, there's a very good chance that basically the threads will get a bit tight. So when you try and put the rose joint in afterwards, it's going to be a bit tight on it, and I don't want to damage those threads. So Once they've come back from powder coat, I'm going to drop a tap down them. Obviously I need a left hand and a right hand M12 by 1.5 pitch. Clean those all out, and then the rose joints should drop in nicely and we can put them back on the car. Happy days! Well, these are the said bars back from the powder coater and with the rose joints fitted in them. Like I said, I got a left and a right. In fact, I already had the right one. Tap. So left-hand thread and a right-hand thread. But basically, that's the bar all together, and that is ready to go on. What I have done as well, you can see in there, there's quite a lot of grease involved in that, which should keep the old rust at bay. We don't want those seizing up. So anyway, they can go back on the car now, and then that'll be ready for yeah, dropping back onto the ground. I fitted it on this side, and you can see the amount of extra clearance that we've got down here now, which is fantastic. So although it may have just increased the wheelbase very slightly, probably by about 20-25 mil, something like that, it does mean that when we're adjusting the toe in and out on that wheel, we're not going to get a fouling issue down here. And at the back, obviously, we've got loads of room anyway. So that just sits nicely in the center of that wheel arch a little bit better. So I'm going to get the other side fitted, and then basically I'll be able to drop the car back down on the wheels, because I have got some important information which I need to share with you. And there you can see that bar from underneath, and it just clears nicely up the inside of the wheel back over to that chassis mounting point, the other side of the handbrake cable. It's back down on the ground again after fitting those rear trailing arms, and I can tell you I'm very pleased with the position, the fore-aft position of that wheel now. That's where I need it. But of course, what will happen is when it goes for its four-wheel alignment, they'll check that, make sure the track's the same on each side. Sorry, the wheelbase is the same on each side, and then check things like the toe in on the back, and obviously all of the other parameters they need when they're doing four-wheel alignment. But at least it's all nicely adjustable and easy for them to get at. So that's the next stage after it comes back from Manor Performance. So what I'm doing now is just getting it ready for loading up on the trailer, so that it can go over to Manor Performance over at Northampton. They're going to be fitting the EMU Classic, that's the ECU that's going on it, and then basically that should mean that we can hear it run. It'll be with them for a couple of weeks, so I'm very much doubting I'm going to get it back before Christmas due to other things that are pressurizing me, but never mind, we'll see where we are, and obviously you guys will be the first to know. So, with the ECU fitted and that work that Sam up at Manor's done, it runs absolutely fine. However, I've still got this issue with the oil, and I'm thinking now that we're chasing around a problem on possible poor quality AN fittings on the oil cooler hoses, because it seems to be spraying out there on the swivel end, which is less than ideal, obviously. However, I have actually driven the car for the first time just to turn it around outside, and then noticed that it was dumping oil again. It shut her off quickly, no damage done. But it is a bit of a pain in the arse, because it does mean that I've got to do a bit more investigation, strip out the oil hoses again, and just see what the hell's going on down there. We'll get there in the end. Right, the leak. Let me just get the camera down here so you can see. Basically, you can see one of the oil lines on there. I've taken off the one nearest the manifold, the exhaust manifold. You can see that adapter just there now. It was that one that was leaking, and basically I can't tighten it up enough, and it looks to me like the fitting is indeed faulty. I've taken out the dipstick, so I've got good access to tighten those two up. I am going to take off this one as well, because that I've got another new fitting for both of those now, and I'll just show you those. So what we've got is some decent quality, get that right there, motor mech, decent quality fittings. I'm dubious about the previous one, and this is it here. It was leaking basically right here in this union. Oil's coming out of there, and it didn't matter what I did to tighten it down, it just wasn't doing it. So there's obviously a fault in that. So that one's going out, and we're going to use the new Motormech one, which I'm assuming, because of who it's made by, is of very good quality. So I've taken that off the end of this hose here. The hose is good, definitely hasn't been leaking on the hose end. It's definitely been leaking out of the little junction between the union, between the nut and the pipe. So I'm going to put that one on, we'll get that back on the car. I'm going to change the other one as well, and then we'll just give it another go and see if it still leaks. Fingers crossed. Well, it's good news, guys, we've got no leaks. Okay, we got good oil pressure. This is just on idle, just over 1000 RPM. It's a turbo gauge over there, which is doing not a lot at the moment because she's idling. There's obviously a problem here though with these gauges, because they're not registering it. Oh, hang on, the water temperature's now coming up. That's cool. Okay, we're on 41, but the oil temperature isn't sending me anything at the moment. Well, with that good news of the oil leak being fixed and the car running pretty good, it's still a lot of R&D to do on it. As soon as it runs, it chucks something else at you that you've got to sort out. I think the exhaust cam timing isn't quite right. We're going to have a look at that and try and get that aligned again correctly. But that's a cracking result anyway. Car got up to temperature nicely, no major issues with it. Obviously the base map is going to need looking at sooner or later. Sounds pretty quiet as well. I guess that's that big turbo doing its work there. So that's great for hill climbing because we don't want it too noisy. But at the end of the day, I think that's a good place to sign off. Thanks for watching Otto's Garage. I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.